Hi, Herb Mates. I've made a ton of changes to my garden this spring to better align with my family's food and self-sufficient pantry goals. If you want to come along with me, I will show you the changes and let's talk a little bit about our objectives for 2025 growing season. But first, let's rewind a few months so we can see how we got here.
So if I'm being honest with you guys, my garden revamp largely was a result of one busted bed. It was on my to-do list to go ahead and repair it or replace it. But Facebook Marketplace struck and I found a great deal on multiple beds. So we had to do the whole garden. I was like, this is a great opportunity for us to maximize space. We've talked about it for quite a while, and that's what we did. We got rid of some of the dead space and decided to take it to the limits. It was a ton of work, and I am so thankful to Mr. Red Boots and our friend Caleb. I really feel like now I'm utilizing my garden space to its fullest potential. You've seen how I've remodeled my main garden, but I'm also focusing on maximizing space in other ways.
Another addition was adding this trellis to have additional vertical growing space. This year I have included Seminole pumpkins to my garden, which are supposed to be squash vine borer resistant, and Trombosino or Rampicante squash. Rampicante squash has a cool duality in that you can have them young while they're green and small, and you can use them as a summer squash like a zucchini, or you can let them grow to maturity, harden them off, and they are a winter squash similar to butternut.
I'm also utilizing and optimizing my green stalks.
So one of my goals is to make sure I'm optimizing every square inch that I can and using my vertical space to the best of my ability. In the past, I've used my green stalks kind of singularly for garlic or onions. Last year I had a pepper tower. I have a strawberry tower. But I see other people who really optimize them to their fullest potential, and that's what I really want to work towards. So this year, I feel like I am doing that. I have a gamut of things. I have, what is this called? Eggplant growing. On the top, I have bush beans growing. I have a lot of determinate, tomatoes, of course, basil. You gotta have basil with your tomatoes. I have bell peppers, hot peppers. I even try to put a all-season cabbage in here. We'll see how that goes. But basically, if there is an empty spot, I am consistently putting a seed in there. It might be a bush bean. This includes all of my green stalks. It ranges from bush beans, radish, turnips. It doesn't really matter. If there's an empty spot, something's going in there.
These methods really help me pack in a lot of plants in a small area. If you've been with me for any length of time, you may recall I started my medicinal garden about this time last year, and I did so with the intention of letting a lot of my plants naturally reseed, and reseed they have. My garden has been overflowing with so many supportive and healing plants my family has come to rely on. I've been harvesting and drying an abundance of chamomile and calendula, which I believe should be a staple in every medicinal garden. I'm absolutely loving having fresh chamomile at my fingertips. It's always one of the first herbs I reach for when I'm making any tea blend that is meant to wind down, relax, or help me sleep. And calendula is such a great and gentle lymphatic mover. I really find it useful for my toddler during cold and flu season on that second and third day of a congested cold. It's also a rich addition to any salve as it is very nourishing when applied topically. Yarrow is also in full bloom right now, so I'm planning on making a yarrow and calendula salve, both of which are immensely healing to the skin. I am planning to add several new additions in the near future, so stay tuned for that. And if learning about medicinal plants individually is something you'd like me to cover, please comment below. I'd love your feedback. One of my biggest goals this year is to preserve as much of my harvest for our pantry as I can while still having an abundance of fresh eating throughout the growing season. For me, this meant growing several San Marzano and Roma tomatoes with the intention of turning them into pasta sauce and marinara, canned tomatoes, ketchup, all of my tomato products, while still having several cherry tomato and slicers like glacier and beefsteak that I can eat for fresh eating throughout the spring, summer, and because we have a long growing season, even the fall and into winter months. I took the same approach with my beans, growing a tender bush bean like Ferrari for fresh eating, San Bernardo blue bean for drying and long-term storage, and edamame for both. Other long-term storage crops I'm growing are my potatoes, my winter squash like pumpkins and trombosinos, sweet potatoes, onions, and garlic. And I've already kicked off canning season with some strawberry lemonade concentrate. It always feels so good to bottle up that spring and summer produce to enjoy later in the year.
I am still really early on in my self-sufficient journey. And to be frank, I have no intention of being self-sufficient. I think people who think that way are kind of silly. We are meant to commune, be in community with people, meaning to share and rely on one another. That said, I think switching our mindset from being consumers to producers is a good thing because that means we can share more and offer more to our community.
For me, it's about building a resilient, self sufficient pantry with staples on hand, like grains for bread and sugars and salts and all the things you need, the basics, so that we don't reach for convenience foods at the grocery store. Another important goal of mine is to make staple medicines for my family from the herbs I grow. For me, staple medicines are things like teas for colds, salves for skin issues, and tinctures to keep us healthy and balanced. So I'm focused on growing things like skullcap for anxiety, lamb's quarters for nutrition, yarrow to help break fevers, and motherwort to help with reproductive health. I find it very liberating to be able to care for my family from my garden.
I would love to hear if you guys have any self-reliant, self-sufficient goals of your own, what you're growing in your garden, or what you're growing on your patio or in your window. I would love to hear it in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe so we can grow, harvest, and heal together.